Hi everyone, it's Lisa crafting for the Paris Bourbon County Library. Usually we're making crafts that you can easily make from home, and today is no exception. This one is entirely from home. I don't know of anything that you would need to purchase, I should say, outside of a few supplies that we have you have at home. So let me go ahead and get started with the supplies. Today we're going to be making paper beads, and these are very hard to see. They're very tiny, so I've tried to zoom in just to my workplace here so that hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So let's get our list of supplies. The first thing you're going to need is obviously a ruler, and I'm using this large clear ruler that I use for crafting as well as quilting. I need I need a pair of rotary cutters or a pair of scissors. I use my rotary cutter and my mat because it made this so much easier, although you can do it with just scissors, not a problem there. Other things that you might need are toothpicks or skewers, either one that you like. I prefer working with something a little bit smaller, so I prefer the toothpicks. Other things that you're going to need is I prefer a magazine. I have been lucky to get this fabric from my mother-in-law. It's called Shabby Fabrics, but inside of it are some brightly colored strips, and I can actually use those on this one, for instance, right here would be beautiful actually you could probably make 5, 6, 7 beads out of this one strip here. And you can see as you go through here, there's some beautiful brightly colored fabric examples that would make great strips for your fabric beads. You can use just a regular magazine, but you do need some form of paper for the paper beads, obviously. The best way, once I have prepared them, I took some cups, I poked some holes in the bottom of them, and that allows me to rest my toothpick with my bead on it so that I have a place to dry it. Now normally that bead will hang right up there, but these are dry beads. I did these last night. Other things that I'm going to need Mod Podge. I found that this produces a wonderful gloss finish on the bead and helps it to retain its shape very well as well. I will need also a pen to mark my distance on my paper that I'm using, and I believe that is it. I do need my paintbrush. Hold on, let me get that real quick. Excuse me for that. I thought I had my paintbrush with me. Now I use a small paintbrush for applying the Mod Podge. You could use a foam brush as well, but you do need a paintbrush. And I think that is all of the supplies that we're going to need for this. So let me go ahead and move a few things to the side. And I want to discuss this ornament. Now I'm not sure that you can see that well. I'll try to hold it down here so that you can. But this was purchased. I've actually shown this before in my crafting videos, but this is full of paper beads, and they are beautiful. They are perfect. They are high gloss. Obviously these beads are made by someone who is an expert. I'm not an expert, but I can make a paper bead, so I'm going to show you how to do that today. I think these are just beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on our project. The first thing that we're going to need is our paper. Now I've already cut a strip of paper. There's one that I could easily use. That would be beautiful. And here are some smaller ones that I've made. So let's look at our beads really quick. This one, which is very odd shaped and was just from a remnant fabric, or excuse me, a remnant piece of paper, it's odd shaped. It's long. It's okay. It would be great on you know, as a embellishment perhaps. But for jewelry, I'm afraid that it would be, if you made several of these, it would be almost too bulky to actually make into a bracelet, a necklace, or so forth. This is a great starting point though, because this would be a great opportunity for you to practice. And if you're going to get the kids involved, then most of their beads are going to turn out like this. They're going to be larger, and they may not be as finessed as some of the smaller beads that you're going to be making. But this is one of the larger beads. I'm not really crazy about this one. As a matter of fact, I probably would have thrown this away, but it is a good example of the larger beads. The smaller beads that we've done, obviously, we're going to have to trim down our paper. As you can see, those are very tiny. This is these two right here are probably the favorite ones that I made. I like the color of them. I like the shape of them. I like the high gloss. I could easily put these onto a piece of jewelry and it would look great. So let's go ahead and get started with our process. I have taken my ruler and I just made sure that I had a square, not square, excuse me, an exact measurement here on both ends. And this is exact. So this one I could easily use. But I'm going to go ahead and use this one because it is already pre-cut for me. And this is a 1/2 inch strip. So what I need to do in order to make this a strip of paper that can actually be molded into or shaped into a bead is I need to find my center point on the end. So I'm going to take my ruler, and at the center point I'm just going to make a little dot. Now I will tell you that there are patterns that you can follow, cutting patterns for these. I found them confusing. I found it easier just to come up with my own pattern here. So I'm taking my 1/2 inch, this is going to be a 1/2 inch bead, and I went to the 1/4 inch and I made just a little mark there. And all I'm simply going to do at this point is from that corner to my dot, I'm going to shave off tightening up my rotary cutter. I'm going to shave off the extra. And I'm going to put it to the side because it is not going to make a good bead. This one would be off center. And I'm going to take that same point, and at the very end I'm going to line that up with the very end, or very beginning I should say, of my bead, because we actually start from the long end. Again, this little piece right here is useless, and here is my bead. Here is what's going to make my bead. So it's pretty simple. Just decide on how wide you want your bead to be. Take half that measurement, mark it with a pen, and then you're going to take your ruler and go from corner to the dot and from the corner to the dot. And you do this repeatedly, however many beads that you'd like to make. I'm going to put my ruler to the side and my cutter to the side, and I'm going to point out a few other things. This one is a little bit wider and to the point. This one is made out of wrapping paper, which I thought would work, and it may work, but it did not work for me. The wrapping paper was too thin and it appeared to lose its image, as you can tell from this bead. Really hard to work with. Magazine paper is more substantial. You could use scrapbook paper. There are other types of paper that you could use. There's actually some paper that's used specifically for folding, or origami, those kinds of things. That's a great paper as well. But magazines, I found, with the colorful pictures in it, are almost foolproof. So I would go with a magazine. I also tried regular, brown wrapping paper, or your paper bags. And it worked out pretty good. Here's the bead that came with that one. Or actually, here's the bead that I made with that one. It held its shape, although it's not a very pretty color, but it did maintain its color, and it could be easily used as a bead on a piece of jewelry. So let's get started with the bead making itself. Now, I'm not going to bother pouring my Mod Podge out because I only need just a little bit, very little. So I'm going to put my Mod Podge to the side. And with my paintbrush and one of either my skewers or my toothpick, I'm going to take the one that we just started with, the one that we just made. And I'm going to dip my brush into the Mod Podge. And not at the very end, but maybe a ½ inch out, I'm going to put a little bit of my Mod Podge on there. Now what that's doing is allowing me to start the rolling process without actually gluing the paper to the stick, because I want to be able to remove the paper bead from my skewer or my toothpick. There are tools. If this is a craft that you find that you would love to make and that you're really good at it, there are tools that you can buy that make this rolling process a lot easier. And you can see I've already started my rolling process here. And every once in a while, I'm going to put just a dab of my Mod Podge. Mod Podge, excuse me. A little bit more of the Mod Podge. I hope you can see this. I'm rolling it towards me. Now with my fingers, if this becomes a little offline, with my fingers I can manipulate it a little bit and kind of get it right back on track. This one's working out pretty well. And I think that's because we took time to actually measure. And cut. Keep rolling till the very end. And there you have it. Now, how to finish this off. I like the look of a glossy bead. I'm pulling that up a little bit. I do want to make sure it is not sticking to my stick. And I'm going to take a little amount of Mod Podge here. And I'm going to simply cover it. And I'm not really wiping it on there. I'm just dabbing it. And once I feel like I've got that coated, then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my cups. By the way, you could use Oasis or Styrofoam, and that would also help you have a place for your skewers or your toothpicks to stick. Now I would let this one dry. And let's see, do I have another one made? Let's do this one. Let's make 2 of them. Mod Podge dries relatively quickly. Remember, I'm going to start about a ½ inch back. That way it does not stick to my skewer or toothpick. I have seen these beads made before where they generously almost dunk the strip of paper down into the Mod Podge, almost like you were paper macheing. That is messy, and those beads typically take a lot longer to dry. And you know what? If your measurement's off a little bit, don't stress it. These beads are meant to be a little irregular in their look. So just because you think it is off center, that kind of thing, don't trash it, because it really might make a great looking bead in the end. This is time consuming. I'm not going to fib to you. It's time consuming. But what a great way to craft with kids. I'm going to continue unrolling. Don't worry about any excess Mod Podge that kind of seeps out as you're rolling, because remember, we're going to finish it with a Mod Podge finish. I've got that little tiny piece there still sticking up. And there we go. Let me get a coat of Mod Podge. Notice again, I'm not really brushing it on, I'm just kind of dabbing it on. This Mod Podge is a gloss. You can buy a matte finish, so if you don't prefer the gloss on your bead, look for the matte finish Mod Podge. And then all we're going to do again is put that in our cup until it dries. Mod Podge dries relatively quickly. I actually put 2 coats on the outside of these to give them a little bit of a shine. You'll notice that one has a little bit of a shine to it, and that's the gloss Mod Podge. Once these are finished, they're very easy to string or to make into accessories, because you have that hole right there at the end. This one is not completely dry, but you can see that hole would make it easy to string onto your jewelry. Think about what you have at home. You probably already have magazines. Look for the most colorful pages. I will tell you, outdoor magazines, obviously I have one that has fabric samples. Any of your nature books or magazines, excuse me, they're going to be great, because there'll be big sections with large pages of colorful strips of fabric, or excuse me again, I'm so used to working with fabric. Large strips of the paper that will make some fantastic beads. Give this a chance. These are paper beads. Let me pull them over. Again, these are the ones that I have made. These are the ones I'm proud of. And I hope you'll be proud of the ones that you make as well, because they are going to turn out fantastic. And there you go. Look at what you have at home. See what you can do with this beading activity. I think you're going to enjoy it. And keep crafting.